Hello! Let's talk about all the books that I read in the month of August and all the books that I plan to read in the month of September. Here's a quick look at all of my August reads. Keep in mind that the Brothers Karamazov I didn't actually finish this month. I just got about halfway done with, so 5 completed books. Well, 4 completed books, 1 short story. And this time we'll start our discussion with the books that I don't already have dedicated reviews for. We're going to start with The Wizard Who Remained Suspicious. The Wizard Who Kept Himself Suspicious. I'm zooming in on the image of the August graphic to remember the title. This is a short story by Scott Lynch. It's in a collection. I did not read the full collection. I just read the short story, and it was delightful. I read his other recent published short story, I think last month, and I was a little bit mid on it, but this one was so fun. If you're wanting to pick up a Scott Lynch short story that he's recently published, and you've been kind of like not prioritizing it, I so recommend this one. Okay, our main character I think is Shiverick. He is a wizard that has never publicly cast a spell, and so the other wizards, a part of this association, are convinced that he's a fraud, and they're trying to get him to admit that he's not a real wizard during one of their gatherings, and then a murder happens right in front of them. Very explosive murder of one of the wizards, and they're trying to figure out who done it. They're trying to figure out who is responsible for this, and they're accusing one another and doing tests to try to figure it out, and it's just chaotic and witty and hilarious, and it has Scott Lynch's wit and humor in this very quick and different for him setting. I really recommend it. It's so short, there's not much to say about it other than it was a delight to read. It was a nice little side quest from some of the other reads that I had this month. Next up is Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass. This is a nonfiction. This is about Frederick Douglass's life from a very young age, being born. His mother was a slave. His father, he never knew who his father was, though rumors were that his mother's slaveholder was his father, but he never found out for sure. He doesn't know most of his family. He doesn't know how old he is, where he comes from, really anything about himself. And that's an intentional tool used. Don't tell your slaves anything about them. Don't give them any sort of personal information or family anchoring. In fact, intentionally separate the children from their parents so that they have nothing of themselves to hold on to. Don't educate them. Don't teach them to read. Really anything that they could latch on to as a personal identity marker, or as an opportunity to understand that what's happening to them is unjust. That way they're easier to control. So for Frederick Douglass, it's his life as a very young boy, his memories of his mother who had a different master than he did, how she would walk miles at the end of the day after she was done working just so she could lay next to him as he fell asleep at night, and then losing her, and his life going from different slaveholder to slaveholder, all the while learning how to read and how to write, and understanding that this life was undeserved and unjust, and trying to formulate a way out of it. This particular narrative is specifically about Frederick Douglass's life as a slave and a very brief account of his escape. He couldn't give much detail about his escape because he didn't want to incriminate or put at risk the people that helped him, but it's a really raw, brutal look at the cruelty and barbarity that was slavery, a first-hand account of those things. The one thing I really wanted was to also get an account of his work in abolitionism, of the abolition of slavery. So doing some Googling, I found some of his other books. The Life and Times of Frederick Douglass. This is a continuation of the autobiography, but this is more focused on his work in abolitionism and efforts to achieve racial equality after the Civil War. Now, there is another book that he wrote as well, My Bondage and My Freedom. My understanding of this one is that this is an expansion of Narrative of the Life, the one that I just finished, with a little bit of information on his work in the abolitionist movement at the end of it, but that Life and Times of Frederick Douglass is more expansive on abolitionism. So if I had it to go over again, I would have skipped the book that I just read, even though it's a 5-star book. It was fantastic. I do recommend it. I would have skipped that and gone to the expanded version of it, My Bondage and My Freedom, and then moved on to Life and Times of Frederick Douglass. Either way, I will be reading Life and Times very soon. It's an incredibly powerful account, and I do recommend. The conclusion to the Darth Bane trilogy, there is a spoiler-filled review for this. I have loved the Darth Bane trilogy, so this is a Star Wars book giving the life story background of Darth Bane, the one who reinstituted the rule of two, and that's book 1. And then book 2 is him taking on an apprentice of his own, wanting to further this cause, as well as training her to eventually, you have to eventually kill me and become the master and take on your own apprentice. And so it's focused on Bane, but it's also very focused on his apprentice, Xana. And book 3 is the conclusion. It's the culmination of it all. It's her challenging him and what that looks like and what the conclusion is. Now, I have loved this trilogy. I have enjoyed myself so much with all 3 of these books. I believe I gave all 3 of them around a 4-star range. This one probably was a 4.5 when I first finished it, but then it backed up into a 4 because some of the ambiguity at the end of the book, it seemed like it was hinting at other things that were really exciting, and then an author interview later revealed that no, it wasn't really meant to hint at that at all. And in that case, I'm just like, why even do that? You know, like that, it feels a little bit messy. And I do think that the pacing in all 3 of these books could have been a little bit better. Primarily, I think there were scenes and sections that felt like they moved on too quickly, and we really could have taken some time, some extra time with them to make the story feel fuller to the amount that I think it really deserved. So my main complaint about the series is more pages, please. Next we have A Trade of Blood. This is the 3rd book in the Leviathan something series. The first book is called A Drop of Corruption. Anna and Den are a detective couple, not couple, but a detective pair, similar to a Sherlock and Watson vibe, but in a biopunk body horror world. Such a fascinating setting, so much fun to be in, excellent character work. So once again, we have Anna and Den solving a mystery. This time this mystery seems too simple at first, and it is too simple, honestly. There is a noble woman, someone very important, that has been murdered, and it appears as if she was murdered by her lover. It's Romeo and Juliet-esque. It's warring families, and the fallout of this murder has really huge social fallout. We discuss class disparity, monopoly of essential goods, and the ramifications, the fallout of this murder. The ripples for this go very, very wide. Now, Anna does say at the beginning that she wants a challenge. This murder feels too simple. She wants a puzzle that she can solve. And then it turns out that it is a little bit more complicated than she thought, and then she's excited for the challenge. The problem is that it really wasn't much of a challenge. Now, you're talking to someone who isn't really interested in mysteries. I don't read a lot of mystery books, and if I do, I tend to rate them a little bit lower than a lot of people do, because it's not my jive. And even for me, it seemed very simple. Once you know what the murder weapon is, it really narrows the pool of who could have done it. And then the clues, I don't think were very concealed. And so it's unfortunate when you have like this detective extraordinaire who wants a challenge and then finds a challenge, and then the reader is just like, Hannah, catch up. I think for me, the mystery is always the weakest part of these books, but maybe it's recency bias. But I do think that for book 3, that is more significantly true. I think it's the weakest and least complex mystery of the 3. Take this as a non-mystery reader. Still, the characters and the world building are really what I read these books for, and the characters and the world building were on point for this one. Still, the history and world building of the Empire were very much expanded in this book, and it was so fun. And the backstories and further reveals about Anna and Den both were really satisfying. We got to see more of Den's story, or more of Den's family, and that was incredibly satisfying. And we got more information on Anna. She's still an enigma, but we got more. Again, I think I gave book 1 maybe a 4.5 and book 2 a 4, possibly. Book 3, as I've just finished it, is kind of in that 4, maybe even a 3.5 range. We'll see where I end up in editing. But I do think that I tend to rate these books a little bit lower than I see a lot of other people rating them. So if you've enjoyed these books leading up to this point, book 3 will not disappoint you. And finally, we have Slaughterhouse-Five. This also got a dedicated review. This is a book following a man named Billy who was in the Battle of the Bulge, and in the middle of the battle, he became unstuck in time. That means that he no longer was experiencing time chronologically. He could jump to a different time or even a different kind of realm without any sort of warning. And it was in the battlefield that he became unstuck, but it is after an alien abduction that he meets these aliens that they explain to him what being unstuck means and the benefits of it. And the benefits are mostly a detachment from the emotional pain of experiencing life chronologically and experiencing hard times in life. And to me, it read like PTSD in a book. Being unstuck is the narrative representation of hearing a car backfiring and being launched right back into the battlefield, or a moment of trauma, fill in the blank however you like. And certain catchphrases of the book, like "so it goes" and discussions on free will and the lack thereof, are all, to me, coping mechanisms of the trauma that has been experienced. I discuss it all in the review if you want to check that out. This is an interesting book. I was talking to Joanna about this one, and I told her, she asked me, did you enjoy it? and I said, I don't really know if I enjoyed it. I am glad I read it, but I don't know how to say that I enjoyed this book, which isn't something that I say about a lot of books, so I don't know if you know what I mean when I say that, but there it is. As I said, I'm also halfway through The Brothers Karamazov. Hopefully I'll have it finished in September and we can have a discussion on it. I can say that I am very, very much enjoying the discussions that come from it. Quick look at my September plans. So I have 6 books on my plans for September. We're going to finish the second half of The Brothers Karamazov, maybe. Hopefully. Editing Murphy here. The first book I was going to talk about on my TBR turns out doesn't release until October in the US, so I'm swapping that with another Kafka book, or short story, I guess. I've been wanting to read more Kafka anyway, and one of my patrons recommended The Penal Colony, so I might go for that one. The Labyrinth of Evil, which is, I don't actually know. I can't remember. But when I did my quarterly video, this is what I chose as one of the books that I need to read by next quarter, continuing to follow an author that has been an absolute win for me. This is the same author that wrote the Palpatine book, Darth Plagueis. It's rude of me to call Plagueis's book the Palpatine book, but here we are. He also wrote Labyrinth of Evil, which is the first book before Revenge of the Sith, which is the book that got me into Star Wars. So, different author, but also an author I love. Anyway, I'm going to read it. Green City Wars is the Patreon pick of this month. This is an Adrian Tchaikovsky book, which Tchaikovsky has been a little bit hit or miss for me. He's either like a 5-star book or a 3-star book. I don't think I've ever had anything below 3, but I think there are a lot of his books that I really enjoy the ideas of and don't always feel totally engaged with the execution. And then there are other ones that are like, knock it out of the park, which he is so prolific that I guess it'll just happen sometimes. Anyway, Green City Wars is not one that I would have chosen for myself because I'm not really a talking animal. Like that's not really what I tend to gravitate towards, but it's been chosen for me and I'm gonna read it. If I Die in Combat Zone, Box Me Up and Take Me Home by Tim O'Brien. This is the same author that wrote The Things We Carry. This is actually his autobiography. This is his story in Nam, at least that's my understanding. So that'll be an interesting read. That's my nonfiction of the month. I also have Rogue One. I'm honestly just reading this because I watched the movie and I loved it and I want to talk to you about it, but you know, this is a book channel, so I'm gonna read the book and we're gonna talk about it. We'll see how the month goes. As you can see, I read a little bit less last month than I thought I was going to. I may be reading, I may not be able to keep up with this many books in September. either. If I do drop one, it'll probably be The Housekeeper because I'm not really that much of a thriller reader either, but I do still want to read it. So we'll see. We'll check in a month and I'll let you know. But if you plan on reading any of these books with me, or if you saw anything on the TBR that you're especially interested in and you want to make sure that there's a review for that book, because, you know, I do dedicated reviews, not for everything that I read, but for the ones that I just really want to talk about. If there's something that you want to, you know, throw out there that you'd like to see a dedicated review for, please do let me know what you're interested in. And if you've read any of the books that I talked about for the month of August and you want to continue talking with me about them, please do in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts too. I'll see you again soon. Bye.